The United States obviously has its fair share of problems. We have a bunch of issues that are happening here within the United States, but also we have issues abroad as well. Today we're going to talk about some of those issues and how what has just happened is actually considered very good news for the United States and the Biden administration. Because one thing I can tell you right now is that the Biden administration has their back in a corner and they're trying to do everything they can to get out. So I'm going to address what's going on at this time, why this is good news, and what this means for the American people moving forward. All I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So right now, for the American people, there's a handful of issues, but only a few are the highest priority. One is the U.S. southern border. 2 is a potential war that the United States could go into. And number 3 is inflation. This is what many people are discussing, that we are now starting to see some prices are ticking back up. This is a problem because millions and millions of Americans are still struggling from the previous pandemic. Now, here's what's going on, and this is why this is good news for us here in the United States. Look at this. It says, Hamas offers remaining hostages for prisoners. A 135-day ceasefire in a deal that President Biden calls a little over the top. Now, this is the key. One of the reasons why the United States is going to potentially be at war with another country, and it would likely be Iran, is simply because Israel is still attacking Hamas in Gaza. And these Iranian-backed proxies have stated that until Israel stops attacking Hamas, they are going to continue to attack ships in the Red Sea. They will continue to attack U.S. troops until we show our support not to Israel, but to the Palestinian people. Now, if Hamas and Israel can agree to this deal, okay, a 135-day ceasefire, that's going to take us to it's the end of June. 135 days would take us all the way to the end of June. What is that? Today's the 7th. That'll probably take us to the 30th, 28, 29th, 30th, somewhere around there, end of June. Okay? That's big. And here's the reason why. Number 1, all hostages would be released. The problem is the prisoners that are in Israel would also be released as well. 500 of which the Hamas would actually be the ones that says who, based off a list of who Israel has that's serving a life sentence. Now, one thing I can tell you though, is though even though President Biden says this is a little bit over the top, this is a great place to be because Hamas has just given their statement, their requirement for a ceasefire. Israel has done this about a week ago. And so now they're starting to negotiate. Now they're starting to put this thing together. Okay? Here's one of the things I want to address though. Okay? Because this is what is one of the demands right here. It says Hamas proposal for a deal with Israel demands that the UNRWA continue operating in Gaza. The UNRWA, it's the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. Okay? And so they want them to keep offering their assistance, right? And provide aid and do all this stuff. But we don't know if Israel is going to agree to that yet. Now, the one thing I can tell you though, is this is a big win for the United States. And here's another reason why. Number 1, it takes us out of the mix of a potential war that the United States doesn't want to be in. It also could potentially free up $17 billion that the United States and Senate negotiators were attempting to pass. This is part of the bill for $118 billion. There's $17 billion in there for aid to Israel. Keep in mind, the country, Gaza has received the most damage, most destruction, but they get the least amount of money. There's also $20 billion for border security for the U.S. southern border and $60 billion for Ukraine. All that is currently being discussed again because there's no way that's going to pass in the Senate and get 60 votes, and the House of Representatives will never put that bill on the floor. But again, keep this in mind. This is the start. If we can see this ceasefire go through, and this is agreed upon by Hamas and Israel, that's big news for the United States. Okay? Because again, keeps us out of a war. Okay? Second thing is, if we stay out of a war, that means there's less chances the United States and Iran see increased conflicts. And if we don't see increased conflicts, that means oil prices are likely to drop. That's good news there, because oil prices are going to dictate whether we see additional inflation or we see disinflation. Right now, disinflation is exactly what we need. And the third thing, right now, the U.S. southern border is one of the most looked at pieces in this upcoming election. This could be huge. Here's why. Right now, all eyes are on the U.S. southern border. And the problem is we have other conflicts around the world. But if we start to resolve these other conflicts, okay, we are not involved in the negotiations. We're not involved in the attacks. That means there's more eyes on the U.S. southern border. Congress needs all eyes on the U.S. southern border, especially right now when we are seeing thousands and thousands of people enter into the United States illegally every single day. Experts say this has to be the number one priority. The problem is, how could this be the number one priority when there's a potential war that could happen? Well, if we resolve that and there is not a potential war, then the U.S. southern border would then become the number one priority for all lawmakers. This is something that needs to happen. Right now, with so many people entering the United States, and we do not know where they're from, what their intentions are, or even where they're going, this is a concern. One thing that President Biden has stated just recently is that he knows the U.S. southern border is far from secure. He knows it's not secure. However, his ask was, well, tell Congress to give me the money. Give me the money needed to secure the border. Well, here's the thing. Right now, it's not all about money. Yes, money is needed because there needs to be additional border agents. There needs to be additional judges to process asylum seekers faster. One of the issues, though, is in this new bill, they are talking about increasing the amount of detention beds, because now they're not going to do catch and release. They're going to do catch and detain. Well, here's the issue. Some people, it takes years for asylum to be granted. But in the meantime, where do they go? That's the issue. Where do they go? Do they stay in these certain facilities? Stay in a detention bed? In most cases, no. But in some cases, yes, they can. So again, there are some different different policy changes that have to happen. But at the same time, there needs to be additional money. But if we don't have to worry about this issue, we don't have to worry about Hamas and Israel anymore, because they're in a ceasefire and the humanitarian aid is still coming in from other countries, possibly from the United States as well. Well, that's great. That's good news for the United States and for the Biden administration. But again, I just want to bring this up. Right now, some people are speculating that the Biden administration does not want to help the Republican Party, and the Republican Party does not want to do anything for the Biden administration. Well, if that's true, and neither party wants to help one another, and they're not going to put together a good bipartisan bill, well, we could be stuck discussing these different bills for the next year, and nothing eventually gets passed. Not until we know who the next president's going to be. Will it be President Biden? Will it be former President Donald Trump? Will it be somebody else? And then who controls the House and who controls the Senate? All those things are extremely important, and we should know that, well, not soon, but in the next, 7 months. So, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. But that is what we know as of today. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.